I know I've been gone for over a year. It's been so long, I was even wondering if I'll still be able to do my own intro. I went through a lot of family stuff and I just couldn't. I just loved how I celebrated this year's Women's Day. I was screaming. I'm sure my neighbors were even wondering what's going on. The joys of starting a new job, right, is you're always learning something new. They on my Gmail, refreshing every 15 minutes. My brain gets stuck on the exam, and I was an A student. What did this past week teach me? We are going to be exploring how to build generational wealth. And on that amazing note, your girl passed her fellowship exam. You are a veteran, but you still haven't gotten a copy of my book. I am side-eyeing you right now. Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Oh my goodness. And if you're here for the first time, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, a veteran in this channel, welcome back for yet another exciting episode of Risk, Money and Insurance. It's been so long, I was even wondering if I'll still be able to do my own intro. But now that we're back, if you are a veteran, but you still haven't gotten a copy of my book, are you really a veteran? I am side-eyeing you right now if you're a veteran who doesn't have a copy of my book. So definitely grab a copy. We will put the links in the description box so that you're able to get a hold of a copy. A copy goes for 250 rands. And I know I've been gone for over a year. I came back last year, Jan, and I was like, I am coming. I'm bringing everything that I have. You guys, I'm going to be dropping videos every week on Thursday and. I felt like I had so many plans, right? I was planning on dropping content. I had content creation plans set up. But guess what? We make plans and sometimes God has other plans for us. And I think that's literally what happened last year when I started the journey. I went through a lot of family stuff and I just couldn't. I had to pick my struggles. It was either work or studying or actually just continuing with this. And I decided, let me put YouTube down for a while, and I'm so happy to be back. I won't lie. I've been saying I want to come back, and I've committed, and I'm now recording. We're recording with Panda Studios, as you guys can see, and I think it's going to be an exciting journey. I've committed, and I hope that I'll be able to keep up with those commitments that I've made. But on the real, where have I been for the past year and a bit? I feel like I've been everywhere, but definitely just not on YouTube. I've been on TikTok, I've been on Instagram, I've been on Facebook. But YouTube was a bit tricky because I felt I needed to sit down and have more of your longer kind of videos, which I definitely didn't have time for. But now the commitment and everything, other commitments I had are sort of out of the way. And on that amazing note, your girl passed her fellowship exam. We can just take a moment to celebrate that because it was something that I've been working towards for the longest of times. And I was finally able to get that thing over the line. And today, as we catch up, as we sort of have a conversation around where to from here, I think I've had my own moment of pause, my own moment of where to from here, and I ended up starting a new job. It's been a month already in my new job. I ended up changing careers. I'm no longer doing traditional actuarial science stuff. I'm now in banking. It's been such a roller coaster, and I just felt like before we even get started with the series, introducing the series that I want to sort of take you guys along on, it's better that we sit down and firstly just catch up. So in our catching up, we can start with a couple of questions I prepared so that this is a bit more structured compared to me just flowing over time. So the first question, it's just like checking in, right? How am I doing today? Checking in around that. So today I am feeling very content. I'm happy. And I'm a bit tired. Yesterday we had this amazing celebration of Women's Day. So today is the 10th. So yesterday on the 9th, we had this amazing celebration of Women's Day. And I had three of my friends coming over at my place. And I had made a nice, setup. And I just wanted them to feel celebrated, seen, loved. And we had such an amazing time. We were laughing. We were sharing and pouring our hearts out. We were dancing because one of us is about to get married. We just had so much fun. We slept really, really late. But I just loved how I celebrated this year's Women's Day. Although we ended up sleeping late, it was definitely worth it. And I feel like going, ahead, we should have more of those celebrations where we come together, we just chat and pray and like have fun and check in. So it was quite amazing checking in with them and just celebrating the different wins that they've had in the past couple of weeks and all of that, and seeing them grow into these amazing women was really inspiring. And I'm so glad I get to be a part of their journey as much as they are a part of my journey as well. So in terms of how I'm feeling, I'm very high on, being content, being happy. I think I'm in a good mood this afternoon, and I'm a bit tired, but we are going to get through this. And then maybe a second question would be, what did this past week teach me? The joys of starting a new job, right, is you're always learning something new. You're always learning about yourself as well, especially where you find yourself in unfamiliar sort of scenarios or situations. But I am learning to, first of all, select my words, and to also understand that not every comment should be dignified with a response, and that sometimes it's better to keep your mouth shut. But sometimes it's really better to keep your mouth shut. And I was just thinking about how I am I'm so blunt. My friends would know. My friends do say almost no filter at all when I express myself. But now that I'm growing and I'm finding myself in different settings with different people, I am now being really conscious around what I say, how I say it, and to who I say it to. And it's been an interesting one, navigating it, especially as someone who used to be so free, to express her mind, to come into the space where you realize that the environment you're in sort of commands a different kind of energy or a different kind of way for you to show up. And you sort of not only at work, but also in other parts of your life as well, where you realize, okay, maybe this is not the perfect situation for me to be addressing, such things. And it's so difficult being someone who, if you ask for my opinion, you're going to get my opinion, okay? If you ask for it, you're going to get it. But also just now being a bit conscious around, okay, not every thought that comes to mind has to be expressed, and not every comment that is made should be dignified with a response, or not every thing requires you to basically take it so seriously. Like, there are some things that you just need to allow them to roll over without dignifying them with so much of your energy. And yeah, it's quite a learning process. I am really learning, because what do you mean? I can't just say everything. So that is like what this past week has really taught me. And maybe to get on to the real question of where I've been, I think, this past Friday, which was a few days ago, I found myself at WITS, and I was addressing the students at CAF around, stock exchange and investing and what it means and where you can start and the journey around investing and all of that. And I had the opportunity to just engage with a couple of them afterwards, and they were just expressing how they've missed my YouTube videos, especially the parts where I talk about my journey and where I am and how things are going and my career and all of that. And I was just like, I share the same sentiments. I sort of missed, documenting my journey through YouTube, and just because when I started, it was also that, like, I want to see how I grow and evolve over time. And my YouTube video, will be that platform where I'm able to go back and refer back to and say, oh my goodness, I have grown from here and this is where I am. So as part of that today, I want to chat a bit around, just my actuarial journey and what led to me now deciding to change careers, because a lot happened. So let's start from, it's one of those stories where I feel it'll be better if we start from the end and like go all the way back to the beginning, because then it will make sense that way. Otherwise, if I start from the beginning and try to like pull it together all the way to the end, it's just not going to make sense. So let's start from the beginning, or the ending, right? The ending is that on the 18th of July, 2025, I received my results for fellowship, right? I had written the exam around May 2025, and I remember the day the results came out. It was a Friday, Nelson Mandela Day. It was a Friday. I was at the office because now I work from the office every day. So I was at the office, and after being at the office, I think I left around 2, if not 3. I did my nails and I went home, and I thought to myself, results are going to be coming out probably somewhere around 4 or 5 p.m. So let me go home and just, wait for the results to come out. And when you are so anxious about something, you can't even eat. I think that was literally me on that day. Food was not going down. Nothing was going down. I couldn't concentrate at work. And I remember I intentionally didn't tell anyone at work that results were coming out, because I sort of wanted to have my own reaction to the results first, and then I'll tell everybody once I'm ready. So I went home. And I was there sitting on the couch, refreshing every 15 minutes. Like I'm there on my Gmail, refreshing every 15 minutes, because I'm like, when are these results coming out? I think I started around like 4:30, and past 5 p.m., an email comes in, and I see it's the Actuarial Society of South Africa. I was like, oh my God. When your heart gets to that point where it's like, doo-doo, and you can feel it. It's like, doo-doo, doo-doo. And like, you can feel it all the way from your throat. You're like, yep, it is happening. And the first line said, Dear Foroperani Mashapa, the Actuarial Society, and I couldn't see the rest of it. So I had to jump into the email to see the rest of it, because they can say one or two things, right? They can say the Actuarial Society of South Africa congratulates you for your achievement, or regrets to inform you. So I was like, which was which? I ended up opening the email, and I saw congratulates, and that's where I stopped. Like, my brain stopped at congratulates, and I was like, ah! I was screaming. I'm sure my neighbors were even wondering what's going on. I was screaming. I was so happy. And I remember seeing that email, and I closed it, and I refreshed my inbox, and I opened it again, because I was just like, what do you mean? And I saw my grade. I had passed. And in that moment, it just felt like this long journey has finally come to an end. It just felt like all the hard work, all the sacrifices, 3 a.m. squad, wake up and work, every single thing in that moment was worth it. And if there's a day in my life that I would like to relive, is definitely the day that my fellowship results came out and I had passed. So now that's the highlight. That's the high of the journey. And for me, it was literally the only thing left for me to qualify as a fellow, right? Of course, there are still those professionalism workshops that I need to attend, but my work-based learning was signed off for fellowship last year and everything. And so this was the one exam that was literally standing between me and my fellowship, basically, and FASA fellowship. So it was literally the one thing that was standing between me and that. But maybe to take you on a bit of a journey as to how we got there, I would first start by saying I failed my fellowship not once, not twice, not 3 times. And after the 3rd time, I just stopped counting because I was like, is this thing ever going to happen? And it's so crazy how you sort of know yourself when you're doing well. You know yourself when life is going according to plan. You know who you are as an individual when you're winning, right? But when things are not going well, there is a certain knowing of who you are as an individual that comes to light. And for the past couple of years, I think I was on that journey of just learning who I am when I'm failing. And maybe a recap would be to say, well, I am a type A personality. I was an A student. And for the longest time, I just had to put in a little bit of effort and things worked out. And for all my other actuarial exams, the most I had to write an exam was like 2 times, right? So I went through all my other exams fairly quickly. Like it was like I passed one session, I wrote like 2 exams and I passed both of them. So life was amazing. I was like slaying this thing. I was the girl I thought I was, right? Because I started working and I had most of my exams. I think I had 9 out of 10 exams. 8 out of 10 exams from UCT, right? And I had to write 2 of those exams when I started working. I had to write Actuarial risk management and I also had to write contingencies. And a story around contingencies is that module rubbed me. If there's a module in my transcript that's like sitting at like 50 on the dot, it's one of those modules where you're like, there it was the hand of the Lord. There was no way I was going to pass. That module thrived me. I remember 3rd year I struggled with contingencies. And I remember looking at it, I think in the day that I wrote the exam, I was just like, if there's one course where I know there's a possibility that I repeat, is this one. So I just never got contingency. For some reason, like it just never, like, I never got it. It never got me. I never got it. And we struggled all the way until the end. And I remember final exam, I was just like, I need to just pass this course. I will do this course when I'm working and not necessarily right now, because already it looked like it's too late for me. So when I got my results and I saw that my overall mark for the course was 50, I was very happy that I passed and I don't have to add another year to my degree. But even to this day, it's like the one course that I struggled with. But even with contingencies, I wrote in university, and when I started working, I wrote it in my first year and I passed it. And I also wrote Actuarial risk management and I passed it. And I went the following year, I wrote enterprise risk management, the principles, and I failed it the first session. Second session, I went in and I wrote enterprise risk management and I also wrote life insurance principles, and I passed both of them in that second session and I was good. And so 2020, 2021, when I was writing exams, like everything seemed perfect. And in my mind, I thought, okay, you've been doing great. So it means major exams done, you're only left with your fellowship. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm only left with my fellowship. It means I'm going to be an actuary in 2022, right? Like, oh my God, I'm close. I am so close. I'm going to wrap this thing up. And like by 25, I'll be done and it will be so amazing. That was the plan. And beginning of 2022, I changed jobs, right? And I remember I did a video on it here on YouTube to say I'm changing jobs. And that was such an amazing opportunity. And I also saw it from a point of I was going to be very close to life insurance valuation stuff, life insurance numbers, and I'll be able to use that experience when I go write my fellowship exam. And that is sort of where my fellowship exam journey kind of started, right? With like, okay, if I get enough experience, then it'll be easy because it's mainly application and they can ask you literally anything. And in as much as you might have, 18 chapters in total, they might ask things from maybe 3 or 4 out of those chapters. So when I changed jobs. And I remember when I went to write the exam for the very first time, I was just like, I know I'm not ready. Like in terms of confidence and where I'm usually at by the time I go write an exam. That first attempt was literally a gamble. You know that thing where people tell you, no, just go write, put your name in your name in the hat. When they draw out your name, maybe your name will be in there as well. But if you're not ready and you're not in that space, I think it's better to just take a break and literally not go right, because you're just wasting, not only are you wasting your study leave, but you're wasting, money as well, because these exams are expensive. And I ended up deciding it's okay. Let me go in and just write for the experience. I remember when I went in to write for the very first time, I was like, this is definitely for the experience. If I pass this exam, I will be very shocked. And I went in and I wrote the exam and I got an FB, right? That was like the very first attempt. I got an FB. So in terms of actuarial grading, our pass mark is 60, right? And 60 sounds easy until you hear that a point for us is like half a mark. But in fellowship, it's a bit different. A point can have 1 or 2 marks, right? Depending on, whether it's a major point, non-major point, whatever. But like generally, a point is half a mark. So to pass, you need a total of 120 ticks on your script. And this is you writing this exam under 3 hours, 15 minutes, right? Including reading time. So, when you get an FA, it means you're 5%. You were basically 5% in that range, 0 to 5% below 1 to 5% below the pass mark. If you are FB, it means you are 5 to 10% below the pass mark. So that's where I was, 5 to 10% below the pass mark. But I think another thing was also that my work experience with my first employer, Old Mutual, was in the short-term insurance space, which was quite interesting that I decided to write life insurance and not necessarily short-term insurance. The reasoning behind it, I guess, was that enterprise risk management, the context was life insurance. Actuarial risk management was also, the context was mainly life insurance. So I kind of felt like I was a bit familiar with the stuff around life insurance. So life insurance principles, hence was easy. I passed that on like first attempt because I was sort of familiar with, life insurance. And so fellowship was another ball game because I had never seen like an actuarial valuation. I had never done it like a life insurance valuation and all these other things that they do in life insurance. So that was the beginning basically. And I spoke to my manager and I was like, I need to get more exposure to sort of, all these traditional actuarial things so that I will be able to basically link my studying with, the work, right? And still, I sort of felt like for the longest time, I wasn't really confident because if you work in the space, you know how big the industry is and how at the same time, there's a lot that's happening. So keeping up, studying, new job and everything was just becoming like a lot. And I decided 2023 to actually take a break. And as you would remember, 2023 was the year where I released my book. And I think when I did that, the main motivation there was I had been studying for as long as I can remember. Like I've been studying from high school, basically. I mean, primary, we can count that as well. So like literally since the day I started primary school, I was studying. So I was like, no, let me take a break and try do something outside of studying. Maybe take a break, clear my mind, prepare, give myself enough time to prepare and see how that will turn out. And so in that process of me being on a break, I remember I then started, I've always like from YouTube, 2020 from YouTube, I've always, had this desire to write a book, basically collect all the basics and the financial literacy nuggets that were shared here to then use that to write a book that is easy to understand for everyone. And that's how Mind Your Sense came to be. So Mind Your Sense became my 2023 project where I literally started writing. I'd wake up early in the morning, 3 a.m. squad, and I write the book, and I got publishers. And by the end of 2023, around November, that's when I published the book Mind Your Sense. And I think once that was done, I remember even explored photography during that time. Like I remember at some point I went and I was a videographer for a wedding, and I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to do this again. I guess there's something else when you start seeing how some people treat people that serve them, right? And I remember even in that gig, we were accused of stealing like a Huawei Android. And we were all, like the rest of the crew was using iPhones. And I remember being so vocal because, of course, I didn't have filters. I remember being so vocal to be like, we all use iPhones. How can we steal your Android? And also we were now being held hostage because you are not going anywhere until this Android phone is found. And I just remember being so frustrated in that moment to say, like, what do you take us for? Why would we steal your phone, right? And when the lady eventually found the phone, she was the sister to the bride. When she eventually found the phone, she came to us and she was like, oh, I found the phone. And she didn't apologize. And I was like to her, no, ma'am, you cannot do that. You cannot not apologize and say it's okay, we are now free to go. You owe us an apology because we were telling you we didn't take your phone. She was like, no, I'm sorry, let's forget it and move on. We were like, this is not the same. I was there, like, this is not the same energy that you came in with when you were harassing us and telling us you want to search our bags. But I think also from that experience, I just learned, I'm an usher at church, and you kind of see how people treat people that serve them, like how people treat ushers. At some point, someone wanted me to dispose their used tissue from church, and I was just looking at them in a very funny way because how do you expect someone to touch with their bare hands a tissue that you have used, right? But also, like, you're also trying to be nice because it's church, and you know you can't. Some people, you just feel like, can I just box you like one time, uppercut or something? Deal with your character a bit for you to be okay. So 2023 definitely was an interesting turn and an interesting year in my life where, I explored photography, videography. I explored a whole lot of things just because I felt, I need to find who I am outside of studying. I need to explore my other interests because I've been studying and I'm tired, right? That fatigue sort of like literally set in, and I was like, I'm tired. I don't want to study. And my family was very supportive, and I was just like, kudos, we are doing this. And I explored, and I think that's when I fell in love with writing again. And even now I'm thinking, I think I will go back to writing eventually once I'm settled in my new role, to start like writing another book, because I don't think I'm done. I still think there's a lot to say, there's a lot to explore. So that was 2023, right? Exam wise, probably not the best year, but in terms of life and wider horizons and sort of the direction that I want my life to take, it was definitely a 10 out of 10. Then came 2024. 2024, beginning of the year, my best friend will tell you, 2024, I had the year from hell. I look back now on my pictures from, the Thank God Fest that I went to beginning of 2024. And I just see how skinny I was. Like my bones, I'm skinny naturally, but like my bones, collarbones were out. My face, I was so skinny. And I look back and I'm like, who is this girl? Because I was going through it. 2024, beginning of the year, we literally started 2024 and it was just one thing after the other happening. My mom was in ICU. My sister was not well. It was hectic. And these are two most important people in my life. I love my mom. I adore my mom. I love my mom. I love my sister. And it just felt like for a moment, I was reminded of what life could be like without them. And on top of that, the show must go on. Life has to go on. Work has to go on. I remember at some point, we were dealing with our year-end evaluation, hectic time in the actuarial space. I would go to work, basically do the work stuff, and then after work, I would drive all the way to Pretoria to a hospital where my mom was in, and I would chill with her, see her, because the visiting hours were between 7 and 8. I'll see her, and then I'll drive back to Joburg, and that was my life for the longest time. So when I'm stressed, I can't eat. Hunger goes basically out the window. So during that time, I was literally living on liquids. And the liquids I'm referring to, it's either juice or water. And so I lost a lot of weight. And I remember when that happened, I think I had just come back on YouTube. It was just immediately after I came back on YouTube and I was making promises to you guys that I'm going to release videos. I'm back and I'm ready. I'm going to take this channel to another level. And I remember just when I was going through that, I knew that was just not going to happen. I knew that it was just the plans I had for the year. God had other plans for that year, and it definitely wasn't the plans I had. And so when everything was happening, I still forced, because I was like, no, I'm going to write. I think it will keep me sane, it will keep me busy. Studying was keeping me busy. I think when things are falling apart, I think I zone out and I go into the space where keeping busy keeps me sane. So I sort of use studying as that. But when everything was done, when the dust had settled, I then realized I've been on autopilot for the very longest time. And that's when a lot of things were coming to the surface. I had been so strong for my family from the beginning of the year until basically somewhere around April. And that's when I started realizing I am not okay. I am naturally a bubbly person, very happy, but there were days that were so dark, I would wake up in the morning and just want to sleep. There were days where I didn't want to do anything. There were days where I didn't want to wake up. There were days where I was like, God, I'm a stranger to my own self. I don't know who this person is. It got really, really, really dark, and I then decided to go back to therapy, as you should. I went back to therapy, and I remember the first session, I was just crying. I was just bawling, crying my lungs out, because I had been caring so much for so long, and I was literally just showing up every single place, everywhere, without really taking care of myself. It just felt like there was no moment or opportunity for me to take care of myself. So I ended up in therapy, and I had performance anxiety, and I had to write the exam, and my therapist was like, we have two options. You can basically skip this exam, or we can continue with these sessions, because she was even scared that I was literally about to be depressed. She's like, I don't think you can continue like this. Let's do weekly sessions. So every Friday I'm in therapy in lunchtime, and after that I need to go back to work. But it's so weird. After therapy, no one wants to go back to work. I remember my Fridays after therapy, I'm like, I can't continue working. So I'll literally just take the rest of the day off, because it was just not working. And being in that space for a while, I would do the sessions, I'll do the work in therapy, out of therapy. We would talk about, the exam itself, why I'm doing it and why I didn't want to stop. And I think in retrospect, I should have taken another break, but I sort of felt like I took a break in 2023. Why would I want to take another break? It's just like that thing where you're like, maybe let me just go attempt and see. But another thing that this journey taught me was just that, you need to be in your best mind state to produce your best work or your best, results. And it just felt like I wasn't really in the best, mind state to be able to go through the exams and stuff. But I pushed anyway because I'm like, I'm going to do it. It's fine. Even if it doesn't work out, I'm going to repeat again. And I think that was 2024. And it was also just a thing of, I really want to get this thing out of the way because I also feel like there are other things that I want to explore and I don't want this thing to hold me back. And I started even having conversations with my mentors around, I've had experience in the traditional actuarial space, but I don't think this is where I want to be. But at the same time, I still want to go through the whole process, get my FASA designation, and then finally move on, right? But also in that moment when you're talking to people, what's interesting is people have this underlying question that they don't really want to ask you, but they really want to ask you. And that question is, are you considering moving to something else because this journey, the fellowship journey, hasn't been going well, or you're considering moving to something else because you do believe that that is the right fit for you? And I think for me, the answer was that even the day that I started working in short-term insurance, I sort of knew that this is not going to be a space for me for like the long term. And when I moved to life insurance, it was also a thing of, I want to explore something different that maybe I will be able to connect with. So I was still exploring when I moved to like life insurance. And I got there and I quickly realized that this is not definitely something I'm going to do long term. For short term, yes, for just having the technical expertise and going through the training, going through the exams, the experience is valuable. But I sort of knew that I won't be in that space forever. And I think one thing that therapy really did help me with is to take a pause and say, but outside of the expectation that you need to finish this exam and you need to explore whatever, what do you actually want? What does like your dream job look like? What are the things that you would like to explore or venture more into as an individual, outside of outside voices, influences, and demands from the bosses at work and the requirements that they have for the position that you're in? What is it that you would like to do? And I think for the first time I was honest with myself to say, I've been chasing this actuarial dream from 2012 when I heard about the actuarial science career. And I think I'm very stubborn about my goals. I'm very stubborn about the things I want to do. Like, if I say I want to do something, talking me out of something that I've told myself I want to do, that's very difficult, if not impossible. I mean, there are moments where I have given in and be like, okay, we can reassess, do something else. But if it's something that holds significance to me, like if I tell myself, I want to do this thing, I envision myself doing that thing, and I feel like I'm up for the challenge and I want to do it, and like there's nothing in me stopping me from doing it, I'll go do it, right? And I feel like I was walking with that narrative for the longest time to say, you have decided to be an actuary in 2012. So you are going to honor that little girl's dream of becoming an actuary, regardless of what's happening right now. Like, you decided you want to be an actuary, and so you will see this thing until the very end. So there was no question around, do I want to make it all the way to FASA? I think I had already decided that. But I think when I discovered that maybe I don't really enjoy this thing as much as I thought I would, that's when the cracks started, to appear. And I was just like, so why are we actually doing this? And at the same time, you're thinking, also, we are failing. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And I had an option. I then qualified as an actuary. I got the master certification, the SIRA certification, Enterprise Risk Actuary certification, 2024. And I basically had a choice. I had to make a choice. Do I stop here and go explore, other things that I'm interested in? Because either way, I'm not going to use FASA as far as my plans and my desires are concerned. Or do I just finish because I want to actually see this thing through? And at that point, I remember in November 2024, I thought to myself, well, your work-based learning has been approved. All your other things have been approved. You are literally left with this exam to qualify as a fellow. So in 10 years' time, are you going to regret actually going to give this exam another attempt? Or you're actually going to regret not giving this exam another attempt and always wonder what would have happened if you actually went and gave this exam an attempt? And I remember concluding that I actually want to give this exam one last attempt. And in this one last attempt, I didn't really say one, but I think subconsciously I was working with, this is my last attempt. I was like, there's no way, this is my last attempt. I was walking in with that to say, I will go give this exam one last attempt. And I remember the note is still there on my table. So if you've been to my apartment, you will realize that I speak to myself a lot. I affirm myself. I affirm my goals. Even in the morning when I wake up, I have confessions that I make, and the confessions come from mainly church. I actually want to read one. The confessions mainly come from church, right? Because our pastor is very big on, you need to speak to your life, basically. You need to speak the word of God to your life and your problems and all the things that you're experiencing. So I ended up writing this confession, right, for myself, because I felt like I needed it. I really, really needed to affirm myself. And every single morning I would say, I am a FASA SIRA actuary. This was, even before writing the exam, every single morning I would tell myself, I'm a FASA SIRA actuary. I'm worthy of the title FASA. I'm worthy of opportunities coming my way. I'm worthy of being in spaces I find myself. My voice matters. I'm confident and I speak my mind with clarity. I'm led by God's wisdom in my work. I'm dedicated to my work. My work is my worship unto God. I produce excellent work. No task is too small. I'm diligent and I use my time fruitfully. I'm a problem solver. Many shall come to my court for solutions. I'm a prophet established in my industry. The Lord has anointed me for the work I do every day. When I show up fully and I exceed even my own expectations. I ask difficult questions. I influence thoughts and make impact through my work. I'm a lifelong learner. I maximize on all opportunities I receive to grow and stretch myself. I'm not afraid of failure. I would double click on this one because I was afraid of failure. I'm not afraid of failure. When I fall, I bounce back. My mind finds joy in the work and the studies because this is the space that God has established for me. And every single day, that was my confession. And every single day, I had written a little note on paper just in front of my study desk to say, I'm giving myself 4.5 months to make sacrifices, to do everything humanly possible to pass this exam. And shush, I would fast, pray, I would study like hell. And this one time, I was talking to one of my mentors, Ben, and he said to me, Furu, I don't think the issue is the exam. I think the issue is your confidence. You keep writing the exam and you keep getting the same, basically FB. I was literally specializing in FBs. My entire attempts, it was FB. He's like, I don't think the issue is the exam or, the content. You know the content really well. I've worked with you. I know you know your work. I think it's just the confidence. And so he was like, as you prepare for this attempt, I want you to start believing that you are a fellow actuary. And I'm telling you, that was a game changer for me. I was like, actually, I'm a fellow actuary, guys. I've been doing this for the longest time. Why am I taking in this situation? So then I started, even the way I would answer questions, I would ask myself, how would a fellow answer this? One of my friends, Graham, was like, marked my paper, my previous attempt, and he was like, this is the feedback. Start listening to more actuaries, how they speak, because when you go into that exam, you need to sound like one of them. I was listening to ASA convention videos. I would listen to the entire video. I would write down questions. Shout out to my manager, Ndubo, for actually answering my questions. We extended our catch-up time from like 30 minutes to 1 hour, 30 minutes, so that I can ask him as many questions as possible. I was waking up in the morning every day, doing past papers under time pressure, and like answering like I was already in the exam. And by the time I went to write the exam, I could tell that I was definitely in a different position compared to all the other times I had written the exam. And when the results, after writing the exam, I normally spend a lot of time, my brain gets stuck on the exam and I'm busy reminiscing over the exam, the questions that came, how I answered them. And I remember I downloaded my script and I looked at them at my answer, and I looked at the past the paper, and I was like, I'm going to pass this question. I'm going to pass this question. I'm going to pass the sub questions. Okay, maybe I might not pass this one. I might pass this. I might not pass this one. And I remember I was just led to also get into a time of like prayer, fasting, whatever. And I did that for like 3 days. And in those 3 days, after that prayer, I was just like, God, I think I have done my part. It's all in your hands. And I am not going to check in on you, because sometimes we pray, and then we go back and we check in on God. I was like, no, I'm not going to check in on you. I am definitely not going to say, remember what I prayed for. I'm going to just let this be. It's in your hands. I trust you. And whatever you decide, it's okay. And I let it go, and I changed jobs, and it was so sad leaving my colleagues. And I think ABSA will always be a part of my story. I became a One Young World ambassador at ABSA. I grew so much. I gained mentors and networks that will outlive basically my time at ABSA. And I had grown so much as an individual, but I think also honoring and realizing that it's a new season as well is important. So took a leap of faith and changed my career into investment banking. So the long and short of it, that was long. The long and short of it is I am no longer practicing as an actuary. I guess I'm not in the traditional actuarial space. I'm no longer doing valuations. I'm no longer doing all those other things. I am now doing investment banking, and in particular, I am doing leveraged finance. And I was just thinking, what's the difference? Maybe we can chat through what's the difference between actuarial and investment banking. And I mean, I realized that it's actually very different. Starting from the hours, my hours now are long. My friends are laughing at me because they're like, dude, you are always working. We feel like you're always working. And that's true. I'm always working. Weekends, weekdays, I'm always working. And it's also a thing of, it's also that time for me to learn as much as possible, because you literally have 3 months in a new position to not know what you're doing, basically. And after that, people kind of like expect you to at least have an idea of what's going on. You can't be asking questions as if you are there on day one. And also me being the kind of person I am, when there's learning, when there is, new stuff for me to wrap my head around, I invest fully. Like I go all in onto those things. And so I had written down quite a few points here to sort of just explain, what's different. Definitely the hours. I feel like I'm working for my money every single day. That's for sure. I also I think a big part that I love about this new job is clients and engaging with clients, going to their sites or offices and engaging with them. And we typically engage with like more senior people in the business, like your CEO, CIOs, these kind of big people, shareholders, and you get a sense of how they think about business. And also for me, it's such a big mind shift in terms of, how as an individual you think about debt and how companies and all these people think about debt as well, because we're in leverage finance, so like we are basically selling debt, if I had to simplify it. But there's a whole lot of complexities around how you structure the debt and all of that involved. But just being in those spaces and seeing how people are able to grow their businesses and buy them at this point, at this price, and then sell them at this price. And also like learning firsthand what works. Because when we have conversations with them is, we're trying to understand what their strategy is, where they see themselves, how confident they are about their market and whatnot, challenges and all these things. So getting exposure around businesses and how businesses are run, I think for me, being very close to different businesses and not being limited only to like the insurance industry, that's a game changer, because I think the long-term goal is definitely entrepreneurship in one shape, form or the other. So yeah, and also it's a pretty cool job. I think you work with amazing people. There's a whole lot to learn, and I also feel like I love the culture, and the fact that I don't need to write exams anymore also adds, a bit of sweetness to the deal as well, around, the fact that now I can invest myself fully into the space and learn and grow and be the best that I can be, basically, in this space. So I think those are the main differences. And I mean, other things, we will chat about them over time as we go into this journey and explore it even more. But so I think we can wrap it here today to say that has been my journey. If there are particular things around what I've shared today that you would like me to address and all of that, then definitely leave the questions in the comment section below. And in terms of where to from here, as the YouTube community, I think we have spent a lot of time talking about savings, investing, budgeting, insurance. We've spoken about a whole lot of things, credit scores, paying off debts. The fundamentals have been covered. And if you still have no idea about how these things work, then definitely get yourself a copy of Mind Your Sense and start your reading journey to catch up with us, because we are about to change gears right now and get to a whole new level. So introducing the new series that we will be tackling, we are going to be exploring how to build generational wealth. And I'm so excited for this portion, because I feel like as the channel grows, as we grow as individuals as well, this is an important conversation to have. And very often we know the final product, but we don't get to see and hear about the process, the behind the scenes that led to that final product. And through different conversations I'm going to be having with different guests, I am hoping that we will be able to unpack, basically unveil the behind the scenes, behind some of the big names that we have, some of the big names that I know, some of the big names that I will get to meet. And it will be an interesting, very interesting ride. So do join me on this journey and don't miss a single episode. And if there is someone who is worthy, not rich, worthy, like someone who is wealthy, not rich, definitely drop their name in the comment section below, and we would try, by all means, to try have them here on studio and have a conversation with them. But I'm excited, and I'm really, really hoping that this time around I am back for good, God willing. I'm really hoping that we will be able to grow together and journey and become the ancestors our grandkids will flex about one day. But that is all from me, Fuluferani wa Mashapa, and I will see you in the next video. Remember to subscribe, and bye.